So now I'd like to talk a bit about pastoral care. So being a British
Yes.
person, I'm very familiar with that term
Yeah.
because we use them in the term pastoral care, but I'm not sure that term is so widely used in the States or indeed in Switzerland. But it's very important for us, and your
Yeah.
title is Deputy Head of Pastoral Care. So
Yeah.
perhaps you could say a few words about what that is.
Yeah. Well, I think to give it context, I think to be able to say, to make a pretty broad, bold statement, I'm going to say right now,
Okay.
that it's really my firm belief that pastoral care at Academia International School is really the backbone
Mm.
of school here, and how we get it, and how we approach it, and how we think about it, and what the end product comes about is all through how we care for our students. So in its simplest form, pastoral care is the attention and planning and thoughts for the well-being of our students. How are we thinking about them? Asking ourselves questions like, is that the best for them? How are they going to respond to that? Everything should have a place and everything should have a purpose. So even as we spoke about having innovative teaching and learning, it's all under the context of what is best for our students.
Yeah.
And I love that we get to have that focus, and I love that we get to have that approach, because we work with a generation that is unlike any other generation that's come before it.
Right.
And I know we say that every generation says the same thing. But this generation is extremely aware of what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
And statistically speaking, this generation is dealing with a greater amount of anxiety than any other generation before it.
Yeah.
And so that changes how teachers need to approach students in a classroom, or we, as the heads of a school, approach the whole atmosphere of the school. Yeah. We have to consider how are they doing, what's affecting them, what are they exposed to, and how can we really meet their needs. I love that we get to think about it on this level on their behalf. How that shows is we not only provide lots of support for them, we do coaching, we talk students through the programs on a pretty consistent basis, we do study plans, but more than anything, what I think this student body loves the most is that we really know our students.
I mean, that's another advantage, I suppose, about being a school or a relatively small size. Yeah.
Getting to know our students, really knowing who they are, knowing how they function, both inside the classroom and outside the classroom, that our teachers actually take time. And I say this quite often, that a very common scene to see in between classes is students spending time with teachers in the classroom, re-explaining something or asking questions or getting some kind of counsel or help in some way or shape or form. I feel like that is our culture. That's who we are.
And I think you've touched really well upon the incidental and on the relationship with the teachers and the students. But I think also to ensure any sort of focus for a school means that we have to also very intentionally plan systems and structures whereby that, for example, pastoral care flows through the entire school in a very purposeful manner. So we do have some systems and structures in place, don't we, where that happens through 7 to 12.
Yeah, but let me talk again very quickly, just to give again more context, is I think one of the greatest concerns students have when they walk into school is the fear of failure.
Yeah.
And I think failure could be a wonderful tool in life if it's used appropriately. And so, for instance, teaching our students how to look at a mark that isn't as high as others, not necessarily as a place that they've done horrible in, but as a stepping stone to some place they want to get better at. So statistics, what do I need to do to improve? But spending time with that student to explain that to them is really the key. It's not just a statement we make out in the open, but it's something that we very carefully and purposely get to do with them on an individual basis.
It has to be
and some of the specific, like I said, programs that we have in place that kind of reflect our pastoral care. They happen in our form groups. We have form tutors that meet with our year 7 or 8 every morning for the first 15 minutes of the day. And there we talk about well-being. We talk about skill development like organization, collaboration, kindness. If needed, we meet with students on a pretty individual basis, on a pretty consistent basis individually to talk through what their particular needs might be.
And do the students know? I think it's fantastic to bring in focus on kindness or a focus on organization. But being a mother myself, I do remember the days, and sometimes it's not so clear. What exactly do we mean by organisation? What exactly do we mean by kindness? How do you deal with that with the students? Because perhaps they're not sure.
Yeah. It's all about setting a culture, right? But it's also about exemplifying that in front of them, giving them every opportunity. So, when you work with teenagers, you have every opportunity to talk about kindness, respect, and organization. So it's your approach on how you do that. You use what's right in front of you and what's right in front of them to give them examples and to point them and to kind of rear them in the right direction.
Right.
So again, it happens on a more individual basis. On a larger scale, what I've discovered is that organization can be a very subjective perspective, how you go about doing it. And so finding out how a student is thinking about it, how they would like to organize, for instance, their locker or their binder, and then working with that. Sometimes they need help and they need tools to get there, but that's what we can provide for them.
So what you're saying, just to summarize, is that it's not coming in with a sort of set list of this is how you organize. You take each individual student, you look at what they're doing, you give input relevant to where they're at, you meet them where they're at, and also with kindness and anything else that you want to model with them. You're using examples that arise every day naturally in the form room, in the classroom, and then using those as learning opportunities.
You just described pastoral care.
Great.
Yeah.